AITA for secretly recording a conversation between my wife and her sister after suspecting something was wrong? I have been with my wife for 7 years. We were college sweethearts, got married 3 years ago, and always seemed to be on the same page. Lately, things felt different. She has been distant, often distracted, and irritable for a few months. I tried talking to her about it, but she always brushed it off, saying she was just stressed with work. She is a lawyer and works long hours, so I believed her for a while. I did my best to support her, made dinners, and took on extra chores. I thought if I eased her burden at home, her stress would lessen. I was wrong. She became even more withdrawn, and the irritability intensified. I felt like I was walking on eggshells around her, never knowing what would set her off. This was not the woman I married. I considered couples therapy, but I knew she would never agree to go. She would say we did not have the time or money. I did not know what to do. I felt helpless and increasingly anxious. The distance between us grew wider each day. I missed her. I missed the connection we used to share. I decided to investigate further. I reasoned that if I confronted her without proof, she would deny it. I needed evidence before I said anything. I asked her coworkers if she had mentioned anything stressful at work. They said she seemed fine. One of them even mentioned she had been leaving early a few times recently. This made me even more suspicious. I thought about hiring a private investigator, but it felt too extreme. I did not want to believe my wife was capable of cheating. However, the evidence was mounting, and I could not ignore it any longer. I felt a knot in my gut every time she left the house. I started paying closer attention to her schedule. I noticed that she had a lot of client dinners that seemed to fall on the same nights her sister was supposedly free. I checked her mileage on the car. She had been driving further than her office and back. I even tried to look at her phone when she was in the shower, but it had a passcode I did not know. I do not think she had a passcode before. All of this raised red flags for me. I did not want to believe she was cheating, but I could not shake the feeling that something was not right. I decided to talk to her sister. I asked her if my wife had seemed stressed lately. Her sister said she seemed fine, maybe a little tired. Then I brought up the times my wife said they went out. Her sister looked confused. She said they had only gone out once in the past month. That is when I knew something was definitely wrong. My wife was lying to me, and I needed to find out why. I started paying closer attention to my wife's routine. I watched her movements around the house. I noticed she took her phone with her everywhere, even to the bathroom. She also started showering as soon as she got home from work, which was odd. My wife used to relax for a bit before doing anything. I thought maybe she was trying to hide something, like a smell or some kind of evidence. I did not want to jump to conclusions, but I could not shake the feeling that she was not being honest with me. I felt uneasy and anxious all the time. I considered confronting her directly. I thought about listing my concerns and asking her to explain. However, I worried that would just make her more secretive. I thought maybe she would deny everything, and I would have no way to prove it. I decided to gather more information before saying anything. I needed solid evidence before I confronted her. I just hoped that I could find out what was going on soon. The waiting and wondering were eating me up inside. However, her behavior got increasingly strange. She started being secretive with her phone, always turning it face down when I was around, and jumping when I entered the room when she was on it. She started going out more with her sister, which wasn't unusual, but she came home later and later. When I asked about it, she became defensive and said I didn't trust her. I didn't want to be a controlling husband, so I backed off, but my gut told me something was wrong. Last week, her sister came over for dinner. I made my specialty, lasagna, and tried to be extra attentive to my wife, hoping to break through whatever wall she had built. After dinner, they said they wanted to go for a walk to catch up, which was normal. I offered to join, but my wife insisted it was a girl thing, and that I should stay home and relax. I watched them walk down the street. I tried to focus on the dishes, but my hands trembled. I dried them and went to the living room window. I peeked through the blinds. They walked slowly, deep in conversation. I felt a knot in my stomach. I considered going after them. I decided against it. Following them would make me look suspicious. It would confirm their suspicions that I did not trust them. I needed a different approach. I resolved to wait for my wife to come home. I would try to talk to her calmly. I would ask her directly about what was going on. I hoped she would be honest with me. I waited for what felt like hours. The house was silent. Every creak made me jump. I scrolled through social media. Nothing held my attention. I turned off the television. The silence was worse. Eventually, I heard the door. I took a deep breath. I tried to look relaxed. I did not want to seem accusatory. I wanted her to feel comfortable talking to me. She walked in alone. I asked where her sister was. She said her sister had a long drive home and left from the park. I forced a smile. I told her I was glad she was back. I felt uneasy as they left. I washed the dishes, but my thoughts raced. I could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. My wife had been distant for weeks. She avoided my touch and seemed uninterested in our usual activities. When I asked what was wrong, she said she was tired or stressed. I did not believe her. Her sister's visit felt calculated. I had a bad feeling about it. I needed to find out what they were talking about on that walk. The thought of snooping made me feel sick, but I could not ignore my gut feeling. I needed information. I considered other options, but none seemed viable. I thought about asking my wife directly, but I knew she would not be honest. I considered calling her sister, but I doubted she would tell me the truth either. The recording felt like my only option, however unethical. I waited for them to return home. I acted normal. That is when my suspicion peaked. I know it sounds terrible, but I decided to record their conversation. I downloaded a voice recording app on my phone, placed it in my wife's purse while she was in the bathroom, and made sure it was activated. I know it was a massive invasion of privacy, and I wrestled with the morality of it, but I felt I had no other choice. I felt like I was losing my wife, and I needed to know why. They left, and I spent the next hour pacing around the house, feeling sick with anxiety. When they returned, I acted normal, retrieved the phone, and waited until my wife went to sleep to listen to the recording. I did not know what to expect when I put the headphones on. I had a vague idea that my suspicions might be confirmed, but I did not truly believe it. I plugged the phone into the charger, put the volume low, and pressed play. The recording was clear, and I could hear everything. It was both of them speaking, but I was only listening for my wife. I heard things I wish I could erase from my memory. I should have thrown the phone away right then. I should have confronted her immediately. I did neither of those things. I sat in the dark for a long time. I replayed sections of the recording repeatedly. I tried to find some justification for it, some alternative meaning, some way to explain it away. There was no explanation. It was clear and direct. My mind raced, and I felt physically ill. I got up and walked outside and then just walked around the block. I went back inside, and she was still asleep. I went to the spare bedroom and closed the door. I did not sleep at all. What I heard shattered me. What I heard shattered me. My wife has been having an affair with a coworker for the past 6 months. She told her sister everything. She talked about how exciting it was, how she felt alive again, and how she was falling in love with this other man. She talked about how guilty she felt about me, but she couldn't bring herself to end the affair because she was so happy. Her sister, instead of telling her to stop, was enabling her, offering advice on how to keep it secret and avoid getting caught. I couldn't believe what I was hearing in that recording. It was like listening to a stranger talk about my life. I had noticed she was distant lately, working late more often, but I just assumed she was stressed about work. I even tried to be more supportive, making her favorite meals and offering to help with her tasks. The whole time, she was laughing about it with her sister and sleeping with someone else. I felt like such a fool. I had been completely oblivious to the betrayal happening right under my nose. I replayed the recording over and over, each time feeling more sick. I needed to figure out what to do next, but I was paralyzed by shock and anger. I considered confronting her immediately, screaming and yelling until I felt better, but I knew that wouldn't solve anything. I also thought about packing my bags and leaving, disappearing without a word, but that felt cowardly. I needed a plan, and I needed to think clearly, which was difficult considering how much my head was racing. I decided to sleep on it, hoping that some clarity would come with the morning. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, had been lying to me for months, and her own sister was helping her do it. I stayed up all night, replaying the recording, trying to understand how things had gotten to this point. The next morning, I confronted my wife. I didn't tell her I had recorded her conversation. I simply told her I knew about the affair and that I had been feeling distant from her for a while. She initially denied it, but when I told her I knew about her coworker, she broke down and confessed. I felt numb as I listened to her explanation. I tried to process what she was saying, but it was hard to focus. I asked her how long it had been going on. She said it had been a few months. She claimed it only happened a few times. I did not believe her. I felt angry and betrayed, but I also felt a strange sense of relief. I had suspected something was wrong for a while. Now I knew for sure. I asked her if she loved him. She hesitated before saying no. I did not know if I believed that either. I told her I needed time to think. I got up and walked out of the house. I drove to a park and sat on a bench. I tried to figure out what to do next. I considered my options. I could forgive her. We could go to counseling. Or I could end our marriage. She said she never meant to hurt me, that it just happened, and that she was confused and didn't know what to do. I asked her why she didn't just talk to me, why she chose to betray me instead. She didn't have an answer. I told her I needed space and that I was going to stay at a hotel for a few days to process everything. She begged me to stay, promising to end the affair and work on our marriage. I didn't say anything. I just packed a bag and left. I drove to the nearest hotel. I did not have a specific plan. I only knew I needed to be away from her and the house. I checked in and went to the room. I sat on the edge of the bed for hours. I stared at the television without really seeing it. I felt completely lost and confused. I could not stop thinking about what she had done and how long it had been going on. I tried to understand how she could betray me like that, after all we had been through together. I also kept questioning myself, wondering if I had done something to push her away. I just felt empty. I did not call her. She did not call me. I just stayed in the room, trying to avoid thinking. I ordered room service once. I could not eat more than a few bites. I mostly just replayed the recording over and over. Each time I heard it, the pain felt worse. I considered going home. I thought about talking to her, but I could not bring myself to do it. I felt too angry and hurt. I did not know if I could ever forgive her. I did not even know if I wanted to. I have been at the hotel for 3 days now. I feel numb. I have barely eaten or slept. I keep replaying the recording in my head, torturing myself with the details of her betrayal. I have also been grappling with the fact that I invaded her privacy by recording her conversation. I know it was wrong, but I don't know what else I could have done. I told my best friend about the situation, including the recording. He said I was justified in doing what I did, that I had a right to know the truth, and that my wife and her sister were the ones who were wrong. However, I can't shake the feeling that I crossed a line. I considered deleting the recording. I thought maybe if I destroyed the evidence, I could pretend I never heard it. Then, I could just move forward with my marriage as if nothing happened. The problem with that idea is I could not unhear what I already knew. I knew my wife cheated on me, and I knew her sister helped her hide it. That knowledge would always be between us, a silent barrier built on lies and betrayal. Ignoring it would only allow the resentment to fester, slowly poisoning our relationship from the inside out. I decided that burying the truth was not an option, no matter how tempting. I thought about what my next steps should be. Should I consult a therapist? Should I speak to a lawyer? I realized I needed to speak with my wife first. She deserved to know that I knew. I decided to sleep on it and address this in the morning. I replayed the recording several times before finally falling asleep. Part of me feels like I should have just trusted my gut and confronted my wife directly without resorting to such drastic measures. Maybe if I had been more open and honest with her about my feelings, she would have confided in me instead of seeking comfort in another man's arms. Another part of me is grateful that I found out the truth, no matter how painful it was. If I hadn't recorded the conversation, I might still be living a lie, completely oblivious to the betrayal happening right under my nose. I spent hours listening to the recording again and again, trying to understand how my wife could do this to me. Each word felt like a punch to the gut. I felt dizzy and nauseous, but I refused to throw up. I needed to stay clear-headed, even if I wasn't sure why. I deleted the recording from my phone after I had listened to it enough times to know exactly what was said, and I wasn't going to risk her finding it. I tried to sleep, but I couldn't shut my brain off. My mind raced with questions and scenarios. What did I do wrong? Was I not good enough? Should I confront her? Should I leave? I considered talking to a lawyer, but the thought of divorce made me feel even worse. I thought we were happy. I thought we were building a life together. Now, I don't know what to think. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do next. I don't know if I can ever trust my wife again. I don't know if our marriage can be saved. I am so hurt and confused, and I feel like I have no one to turn to. So, Reddit, AITA for secretly recording my wife's conversation with her sister? I know it was wrong, but I feel like I was backed into a corner. Was there another way I could have handled this? Am I a terrible person for invading her privacy? I need some perspective. I am not sure what to do next. I feel betrayed and lost.